You end up cheating, and your woman comes to you and says, tell me everything you did. Do you tell her or do you not tell her? Everything. I want to know how you bent it over. Was her cheeks clapping? Did she make a noise? What the noise sound like? Did you record it? And can I see the video?
Welcome to the Pure Intentions podcast, where real love, raw emotions, and intentional relationships come together.
Welcome to the Pure Intentions podcast, where we talk everything relationships from an intentional point of view. I am your host, Chrissy A.
And I'm your co-host, Sir Anthony.
And today we are diving into the topic infidelity.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one. So to start off, identifying what infidelity is, Sir Anthony, can you do that for us?
Put me on the spot, huh? So
Do it to me all the time.
it's a cheater.
It's a cheater.
It's a cheater. Someone who violates another person's trust in a committed relationship.
I like that. When you say cheating, what constitutes cheating? Because some people can say that cheating is just like having intercourse with somebody. Some people can say that it's anything sexually related. Some people deem emotional cheating as cheating. Like, what's cheating to you?
That is a good question. I think it should be taken on for one, you have these kind of conversations, which the Pure Intention cards can filter out that, but having this in the beginning, because you don't want to get a year into a relationship and find out that hearting a social media message to your mate is considered cheating. So have that open dialogue of what are the boundaries that are not to be crossed. So with some people, they're as strict as a wandering eye is considered cheating, because for them it's what else comes beyond that. I think there's some more insecurity issues rooted in that, but again, that may lead to conversations to talking about. Let's be open about our insecurities. Why do you feel that liking on social media is considered cheating, or text messaging, or like you said, the emotional attachment that you may have? Some people have work husband, work wives. Like, these are boundaries that you need to talk to with your mate to see if that's a no-no or not. Because some people will say, okay, I don't care about any of that stuff. That doesn't bother me, just as long as it doesn't get to the physical part of violating my trust. So that's a thing on a couple by couple basis. I don't think it's a blanket statement that you can say what is cheating.
So what is cheating to you?
For me, when you start to get, as a woman, because we know you all are driven by your emotions, once you start becoming emotionally attached to somebody else and seeking out those things that you're not getting at home, and you've bypassed the communication piece to say, well, I need this from you, and how do we actively work? And you may have to communicate that several times, that I need these things from you, else seek it somewhere else. So like the liking on social media, I don't consider that cheating. Now, I do consider when you start to flirt, whether that be physically in person flirting with somebody or the text message flirting, because that can lead to other things. But the social media post, for me, no, that doesn't do it. And of course, for me, the ultimate of physical cheating is crossing the boundary. What about you?
When you stated that whatever constitutes the other person to lose trust, to have mistrust in a situation, would be considered a cheating moment. I think that, of course, the physical aspects of cheating is like the across the board level of cheating for everybody. If you have sex with someone else, or if you're intimate with someone, intimacy with, even without sex, for me, is cheating. If you're giving another woman your attention, time, and money, to me, that's cheating.
Okay.
So
What about kissing?
Kissing is definitely cheating. Any type of physical touch where the other person that could possibly lead to sexual activity is cheating.
What about a slap on the ass?
I mean, what about a slap on the face? But where I wanted to take this was, we all have our different definitions of cheating. Overall, across the board, physical cheating is cheating. We know that some people deem emotional cheating as cheating. But when you get to that point where you have betrayed your partner's trust, or your partner has betrayed your trust, where do we go from there?
Yes.
That's what I want to dive into today. Okay. Have you been cheated on?
Yes.
Have you stayed in a relationship that you've been cheated on?
Sadly to say, yes.
Okay, and with as much as you feel comfortable, can you walk us through, like, you don't have to name names or talk about the entire situation, but just walk us through what that process looked like, staying in that relationship, how you felt, how the other person reacted, things of that nature.
Well, for me, it was at a time that, so I went through a period where I found me. I went through healing. I broke up with this person and found me. I was having a great time. And in that, felt that I was healed enough to allow this person back into my life, and saw maturity that they had went through, and thought that that was enough. But I didn't see all of the, I didn't want to see all of the red flags. Let me just rephrase that. And so, she was living hot girl summer. And I'm like, okay, you had kids young, you've been raising kids all of this time. And I shot bail to the hot girl summer, trying to transition out of, okay, it's time to, we're getting back serious again. And how do you accept that? Because you just don't want to control a person, but you want to love them into a space. And maybe that was my big mistake, of not seeing those red flags of, okay, this person is still want to be out. And they didn't want to give up that life. And so what happened is, they had for lack of a better term, they had a side bitch dude, or whatever you call those guys, sneaky link. And he was...
It's called a side Mitch.
A side Mitch?
Yeah.
I'm going to call him a side bitch.
Okay.
And so she didn't want to give that up, so he was willing to play his role initially, until, too much of that free time that I was taking away from her, it was messing up their free time when they would sneaky link together. And when I found out about it, without getting into too much detail, it went really bad, really left. And then we had a long discussion after that about, is this something that can be saved? And because we had so much history, we decided that it could be. And she assured me that this guy was gone and that was something old. And I naively believed it until I started to see the signs of, okay, she's still messing around. And so it was a total disrespectful violation of trust in how that situation ended. And so that's all I'll say about that.
I think that when we get hurt, a lot of people run to the stage, like we're in the era where everybody runs to the stage of healing. Like, healing is a big thing now. And when we get hurt, we go through this process of where we're trying to heal ourselves, which is so hard to do alone. And we think that we reached a good point of healing. But in reality, me listening to your situation, I don't think you was at that point. I think that you were more so missing the connection that y'all had. Mm-hmm. And you did what after it happened, you had your little fun, your little time, and you just like, I miss this girl. And she might have been telling you things that you wanted to hear to get back in good because she missed whatever you was providing for her at that time too. And because y'all had that connection, whether it was healthy or unhealthy, it's like you wanted to get back to it. And I think we all go through those moments, and we like to use the word healing because it's such a thing right now. Like, healing is a major thing right now. I've also been cheated on. You know, like, I don't think there's nobody in this world that hasn't been cheated on. If you haven't, God bless you, my child, because you are very, very lucky. But I had to go through a process where I did have to go through a journey that looked like healing. And the thing is, when I was going through that journey, yes, I was feeling uplifted. I was feeling free. I felt more peace in my life. But then I ended up doing the same thing. And I ended up backpedaling. Mm-hmm. So it's like that little piece of us that has that small voice that we let get louder and louder to bring us back in to say, hey, I miss this thing. I miss that trauma. I miss that hurt. I miss that complacency, that whatever it was. I miss
subconsciously?
Subconsciously.
Okay, because
I mean, yeah, ain't nobody saying that out loud, but that's what it is. That's what it is. You miss the pain that you were receiving. Your body's not used to it no more. Your body's not used to the at peace moment. Yeah, at peace feels good, but it also, if you're not really diving deep into it, it can also hurt. It can also feel like loneliness because you're going from a place of pain and hurt to trying to heal, and it's not an easy process. You have to unpack a lot of you and why you chose that person in the first place, and look at yourself and see what the problem with yourself was to get to that point. So healing isn't as easy as, oh, I'm going to self-care, run some bath water, put some roses in it, light some candles, meditate and pray, and then it's all just going to go away. It's a process. And working through that process can be hard. Dealing with infidelity and trying to overcome that and getting back with the person that betrayed you is not easy. Is it impossible? No. But it's hard as fuck.
It is.
To look you in your face every day, you telling me that you love me after you slept with another woman, and I'm seeing that as not you loving me. You know what I mean? Or the same vice versa. Like, how could you love me and put somebody ass in your palms? Now when we're having sex, now I'm thinking about the fact that what you're doing to me, you did to Sarah. You know what I mean? That's hard. How can you overcome that with somebody? And then for you in your situation, you tried to overcome it and came into a situation where she was dealing with somebody else. So typically, I believe that when you go through that process of being betrayed by someone, you go through grief. You have to grieve that relationship that you once thought was the it relationship. You have to cry about it, hurt about it. It's just like losing a part of you and you weren't expecting it. Like a sudden death that happened and you're trying to revive it or recreate it.
That's a good analogy.
Was it?
Yes.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the possibilities of you actually trying to forgive this person, what that looks like to the person, the cheatee. The cheater, not the cheatee, the cheater. What does that look like for that person through this process. So I have a friend who says that if someone did something to you and you forgave them, that you should just forgive them and not do all the extra stuff. I necessarily don't agree with that, because you have to think of it as you took a part of our relationship and broke it. And yes, I want to forgive you, and I'm in a process of forgiving you. Just because I took you back don't mean that I'm in total forgiveness mode. I really, really want to work towards forgiving you. But I still have flashes of what that relationship could have been like. I still have the insecurities left there of, why did you do it in the first place? Is it something wrong with me? Was I not providing you enough attention? Was I not giving you enough love? Do I have to wear myself even thinner than what I've already been doing? Those thoughts exist. And to tell somebody to just erase it just because you said, okay, I'll take you back, that's tough. Mm-hmm. I think it's a process. It's a process that we go through, and it's, like I said, a really, really tough process. And for me, what the process would look like is, well, what it has looked like for me, when I got cheated on, I also got broken up with, and I also had to see the girl in my face, because it wasn't a relationship I could just leave and get out of. I was attached to this man for life. And it wasn't that he just cheated. He broke up with me saying that he didn't want a relationship to get into a relationship.
Ironic.
Right. So it wasn't that he didn't want a relationship, he didn't want me. And a big part of me knew that. And I kept saying it, but it's like a part of me just wanted him to admit it. Like, I knew it. And I said, you don't want a relationship. You don't want to be with me. Just say that. And I'm just beating him over the head to say, not physically, this is metaphorically speaking. I'm beating him over the head, telling him, just say it. Just admit that you don't want me. Because psychologically for me, like, that was going to make a difference of me being there or not. And he lied about it. It was like, no, I don't see myself being in a relationship, in a commitment. And then I had to find out from his little brother that he was in a whole relationship with a whole nother woman that he was bringing around our child, and that was hard for me. And I went through my process of healing, and I went and found something that I was at peace with. And then he eased his way back in because he saw the grass wasn't greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. So he tried to ease his way back in, and I put up a wall. But being a person that I'm like, I have 3 kids, I'm not with none of the fathers, I want to try and see if this could work. So I was kind of like letting him back in. And it was hard for him. I didn't make it easy for him because it wasn't easy for me. I couldn't. Now where you had the trust from me and where I wasn't the type of person that go through your phone. Not saying that I did that now, because I still didn't do it. But I'm not finna just let up and say, oh, let's be together. Now you got some work to put in. Mm-hmm. And now you competing against other niggas. He didn't like that. He didn't like that there were other men involved in my life that could have potentially been better than him. Now he feel like he has to go through a competition mode. And he used to get so angry. Well, what's the point? Like, all you're going to do is keep bringing up the past and feeling some type of way about what I did. And he was forcing me to heal from that. He was forcing me to be okay and to forgive him for that. And I couldn't. And that's when I realized, like, I can't do this with him because I will never forgive him, especially at the rate that he's going to. I feel like that when you are the cheater, that there's a level of pain you have to now endure. There's a level of, I would say there's levels to what you have to sacrifice for me to be able to trust you again. And you have to deal with that shit. I'm not saying, physical or verbal abuse or none of that. But if I'm asking you, where you finna go? Who you finna be with? Like, those are my insecurities that got brought up because of your actions and what you did. So you might just have to deal with this for a minute until I feel secure enough to where I'm like, okay, well, I feel like we in a better place now. And that might take a while. So
I think you summed it up how most people feel. It violates, it creates insecurities. It has you from time to time getting those random thoughts like, okay, especially if you start to look, okay, when he said he was over here, but he was actually over here, and that stuff starts to add up. Or there could be certain triggers, dates, times, places. Those things come up, and now you weren't thinking about it, but because we drove past this street, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And your mood changes, and he has to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so if he's not willing to put in the work for the long term, then like you said, it might be mutually agreed upon that, this is not something that we should be in. If you're not willing to, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so if you're not in it for the long haul with regaining somebody's trust, and we're talking about like real work. Now there's some instances where the woman is just being spiteful and bitter and just not budging off of anything. That's a different thing. It's like those are red flags for you as the cheater because it's ultimately not going to work. But if she's trying to forgive you and there are triggers, you should be willing to do the work. And I know I've had this thought and maybe even said it when I was on the cheater's side and looking for forgiveness and like looking for a time frame for that. Like, is this going to be a year I got to deal with this? Is this 5 years? Is this forever? Nobody knows the time frame on that. But if you're willing to put in the work and you start seeing as a cheater and a cheatee is starting to, slowly but surely come around, then that's going to give you that glimmer of hope that this is worth salvaging.
Yeah. And putting in the work is what it sounds like. It's a lot of work. And I think that first and foremost, the conversation after the initiation of finding out about the cheating, I think putting the work looks like explain to me what happened as to why you felt the need to go and do what you did. Is it your insecurities? Do you feel like I'm not providing something for you? Is it some self-doubt that you have? Is it doubt in our relationship that you have? Are you afraid of something? Like, there is a big underlying issue. I think sometimes people move straight to you cheated because you just want to have sex with somebody else. And sometimes that's not the case or the situation. So finding the underlying issue of why, not saying that that's not the case, because it could just be, I just want to feel something new and different. Now, if that's the situation, I don't know how you're going to come from that. I can't help you with that.
There's a couple other that, so let's say in the era of body surgery, if your old lady, doesn't have a great body, but he's being enticed by all these build-the bodies, new models coming out. How do you compete with that? And then just think of the level of insecurity that you create with your old lady in that respect. So it's so many different avenues. In reverse, for women, you are most emotionally attached. If I'm just like the average guy and not in tune with my emotions, but you found a guy that is in tune with his emotions and you all connect emotionally, and it's like, this is something that I've never experienced, and don't know how. And probably the underlying question that he doesn't know how to say is, can you teach me how to connect with you emotionally? And you haven't even, as a woman, even went that far to, because you're rather somebody else that just emotionally connect with me, and this is why I did it. So it's some other reasons that compatibility thing. So I don't have the answer to those, but the ones where you are compatible, you just did it out of things that you're lacking at home that you could have communicated about and gotten. That's the conversation that I believe we're talking about, right?
I think communication that was what I was going to like further go into.
Okay.
Having that initial conversation, that communication as to why it is that you felt the need to go out and be with somebody that wasn't me. Understanding that, and me taking it not from a hurt place, even though it's hard to say that, like sometimes you do have to take yourself out of yourself to understand where somebody else is coming from if you want to fix the issue. If you don't want to fix the issue, by all means, do you. But you have to take yourself out of that situation, out of that position, and say, hey, I want to understand where this came from. And once you get that level of understanding and you express to me how you felt and how whatever made you feel that way got you to that point, now you have to take yourself out of yourself and understand how I feel. Now I then have to speak on my feelings to you. Well, I feel betrayed. I feel like you could have just came and talked to me. I feel like I've created a safe enough space, and if I didn't, that it still should have been a conversation before it was an action. And that's what love looked like to me. So you telling me you love me, it doesn't exist to me right now, because I don't understand the level of love that you're trying to provide to me. You know, communication. I think this is why everybody always say the biggest thing in relationship is communications, because you are going to go through shit. We're going to go through shit. It's how we grow through it is what matters. I think everybody now, this new age, this new era, is like, if something happened and it doesn't bring you peace, just leave. If it doesn't make you happy, leave. And the solution nowadays is to just leave. But you leave in one situation to get into another that might cause the same issues. My thought process is, if it's harming you, leave. If it's hurting you to the point of no return, leave. But exhaust all options, including therapy, before you just get up and run away from it. Infidelity is tough. I think that's one of the main causes that lead to divorce. Let's go back to this cheating thing. You end up cheating, and your woman comes to you and says, tell me everything you did. Do you tell her, or do you not tell her?
You should tell her.
Everything. I want to know how you bent it over. Was her cheeks clapping? Did she make a noise? What the noise sound like? Did you record it? And can I see the video?
Whoa. I didn't know I was going to be loaded with that kind of question. Because my question, I know that these are questions, but why do you want to know all of these things? Because my thought is, I think that if you know that level of detail, it's only going to hurt more. So I would rather leave it at the broad, whatever you know broadly, leave it at that, because having all of those details, that gives you more opportunity to have triggers. And so you just mentioned, bend it over, did you clap the ass? So if I'm bending you over and clapping your ass, now in the midst of that, we going to be having bad sex, so you're going to have a trigger because...
This is the thing. I get that and I understand it. But the way our minds work as women, we're going to think you was clapping them cheeks like that anyway.
So why ask?
So when we're bending over, when we're bending over and we're giving you that part of us, after you cheat, like directly after you cheat, you better hope you can get this motherfucker. No, seriously.
I know.
Because it's like everything that you do to me. You know how they say you argue, you have sex, that's the best sex?
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that when you cheat. Because now everything you do to me when you get nasty, I'm like, oh, he did this nasty shit to her. His nasty ass, he nasty. Like everything you do, I'm going to assume you did it to that bitch. You know what I mean?
I get what you mean, but wouldn't that perpetuate it worse? Okay, let me scratch that question. What is the benefit of knowing that level of detail?
I don't want a woman that you've been dealing with to be spiteful towards you and to come to me and tell me everything you did to her. If that possibility happens and she comes to me and was like, oh, your husband was clapping my cheeks, we was doing this, I want to be prepared for that moment. I want to know what happened. Like, you don't have to go into deep. I need to know if you gave her head. I need to know what positions y'all was in. I don't need to know what it felt like and if it looked good. If you told her some shit like, oh, your pussy feel better than my wife's, I want to know that. I do. I don't want her to have any ammo on me.
Okay.
Now, the thing with that is, you're right. After you tell me that, it's a lot you're going to have to do for me to get over that shit. Well, for me to forgive it. For me not to feel some type of way about it. It's a lot you're going to have to do.
Is it salvageable in that hypothetical? Be honest.
For me, I don't know.
And at that point, shouldn't you also do an evaluation, a deep evaluation, like, can I really forgive this guy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. It should definitely be a breakaway moment for both of us to really take in what happened. Like, it's not just me that's hurting. Something in you is hurting to where you felt like you needed to do that. Something in you is either hurting or you feel like you missing or lacking. Now, I feel like the men that cheat just because they want to feel other women, you shouldn't have a monogamous relationship. You should then make the decision to say, this is what I want. I want multiple relationships with multiple women, and go find women that are down with that because they exist. They're out there. Don't try to be with a monogamous woman trying to get her to understand that you a man and you just gonna be a man and sometimes men cheat. That doesn't stand anymore. That does not work in this society. Like, there are a lot of women that I know, some women that want to be in a polygamous type of relationship. Find that. Like, that's okay. And I do believe that in the midst of us separating, figuring out what it is that we really want to do, when we come back together, we're going to need some therapy. Like some deep, deep therapy. Separate, if you're not already getting it, because I'm a big advocate that everybody should have a therapist. Everybody should have a therapist. Even if you feel like you're okay, you should have a therapist. It's like having a homegirl that can't tell your business legally. So get a therapist. And that can give you some great advice. Anyways, have a therapist separate, have a therapist together, because it's already hard navigating a relationship alone. And navigating a relationship with just the two of you and one of them betrayed the other, trust, it's even harder. Mm-hmm. So definitely therapy. Who child?
We said this was going to be a hard episode.
Yeah.
We might have to revisit this later on with different aspects as we start to get more questions in. Well, what about this scenario? What about that scenario?
Now, I did pull up some questions that people typically ask in regards to infidelity. How do I know it's worth staying in the relationship after infidelity? How do you know that relationship is worth staying in after they've cheated?
I think you just answered that. It's really a honest self-assessment with yourself to see if this is something that you can forgive this person, like truly forgive this person for. And if that's something that you can't, that's your answer to leave. If it's something that you think that you can in time and would work from, like in your head, a complete change from this person, it never happens again and signs never happen again, and you think that you can get past that, then okay, then consider it and put in the work with that person, put it in the work as well.
And be intentional about the work. Don't just say, oh, okay, well, yeah, we can get through this, and keep beating over the head about it. Because like, it's okay to feel the emotions that you feel. It's okay to cry sometimes in moments like you might be in the middle of sex. And one thing that I would say about that, introducing sex back into that relationship should be understood on both partners' ends. Like, that should be a topic of conversation as well, because it's like, how do I allow you to touch me after I know you've been touching another woman? Like, or the same vice versa. You've been touching another man. How do I think, honestly, I think men will leave you. I don't think a man will stay after. So I think that's why I'm directing it towards a woman dealing with it, because we take so much and y'all just be bouncing. Like, y'all be gone. Like, y'all just be gone.
So I guess that's the reason why you pose it to me and want a male's perspective back. So I guess I'll chime in on that. For me, I took it was a lot of breakups and coming back together. But after the infidelity, it was, saying, receiving things that I needed to hear were what I consider green flags, and being promised that this wouldn't happen, and behaviors. You can start to see the behavior start to change initially. And
then this just enough to get back in.
And for me, the tenacity in that relationship was, this was somebody that I proposed to. And so I felt that this was a deeper link, but ultimately found out that this person didn't care about that link. Like, I actually heard out of their mouth that the ultimate for them was being married, that they didn't have the same kind of regard for being a fiance. And for me, I'm like, okay, there's levels to this. So from being a girlfriend is one stage, a fiance is another stage, and a wife is the ultimate. They didn't have any regard for that step up the ladder. That should have been a red flag for me to run. That should be
another conversation we talk about.
So we'll say we're going to table that for a different podcast.
Yeah.
But you're asking from a guy's perspective that didn't run, that stuck through that BS. And I think that was the layer on there that tried to lock it in. Because I'm ready as a man to settle down, to lock in. This is the person that I thought I was going to live the rest of my life with. And it just wasn't what the other party had on their mind and plate.
Question.
Answer.
What if someone came to you and said, Sir Anthony, my partner isn't willing to talk about what led to the situation of him cheating? What advice would you give them?
I would first ask to see, is this a serious relationship? Is this something that the person really wants to save?
Yes.
And from that description, it sounds like the cheater doesn't want to save this if they don't want to open up and talk about this. Sadly to say, I'm assuming that this is a female is asking me this and the male had cheated, because typically us guys, we don't want to talk about it. We just want to shut down. And he's going to have to talk about it. It doesn't have to get into details we talked about before with specifics of what acts were done, but he's going to have to open up and talk about what made him feel that he needed to violate the trust in this committed relationship. Fellas, we're just going to have to do that. When you at a grown man stage and you with your lady and you're trying to level up and you do something like that and you want to do the work, you're going to have to open up and communicate. You're going to have to. I'm sorry. It's just going to have to happen. And if you're not mature enough to do that, you're not mature enough for this relationship. And so that's probably the advice that I would give that young lady. If he refuses to open up, she doesn't have the tool to move forward, to even evaluate if she can heal from this, to forgive and move on from this. And that's the red flag right there to not pay attention to.
What should someone do in a situation that, the guy has cheated, she took him back, but now she's noticing a pattern of him lying and he keeps lying about the affair that happened? What do you do then?
When you say lie,
lying after the affair.
I mean, those are the red flags. And so I'm a person that my personal beliefs are words, actions, patterns. So you can say whatever you want and it not be the truth, which means it's a lie. But if you are a person that says what you're going to do and you stand on it and you do it, that's the action. If you continue to do those actions, then it becomes a pattern. If he has a pattern of lying and those sneaky, manipulative, or distrustful things are still going on, you're going to have to, he's telling you with his actions and his patterns. And
recognize the pattern.
Recognize the pattern. And again, I know we don't want to perpetuate just leaving anything, but if the whole thing that we're trying to get everybody to understand in this infidelity episode is to, if this is something that you can forgive in time, stay. If you cannot forgive, if all of these red flags keep slapping you in the face, if you continue to be triggered and the triggers are getting worse, then that might be a serious evaluation for leaving.
Now, there is a double standard here that happens where a man cheats, he gets forgiven over and over and over again. But then when a woman cheats, it's like she did the worst thing in the world and she's unforgivable. So in that situation, why do you feel that double standard stands so strong?
Ego. Our male ego can't take that. And so we leave. Whereas women have ego, but it's not the leading thing. Like if you had you all's bigger makeup is emotion. Our bigger makeup is ego. And so you fractured our ego and we can't take that.
And I've heard a lot that it's more so of a man knowing his worth. That we don't know our worth, so we let men continue to hurt us over and over again.
That's
and
valid.
That the ego, because sometimes the ego can be a healthy thing. It's not always like when people say like, oh, it's just your ego. Sometimes it could be looked at as negative, but sometimes having that ego is very healthy. So I've heard the statement that men know their worth more than a woman knows hers. And that's why men will leave at the drop of a dime when a woman cheats.
I would accept that, but I still maintain ego would be. I think it's a myriad of things, but I know ego is in the leading of that pack.
Yeah. I don't think it's because a man knows his worth. I think it's exactly what you said. He can't handle it.
We can't.
And if that equivalates to knowing your worth, maybe that's how people see knowing your worth when you can't handle something or you refuse to deal with it.
It correlates.
Then, so maybe it is knowing your worth in a certain sense, but if if you cheated on me 50 times and I say, hey, fuck it, I'm finna go have sex with Brian. And then now it's, you know your worth, so you gonna leave. That come off to me as a little selfish.
Well, I'm going to be sarcastic and from experience. Seeing somebody cheated on me with a downgrade, so I know my worth, I'm out and I have an upgrade.
I guess a man does, in a sense, would know his worth to be gone, but it does have an unfairness to it. Because, like, just going into marriage, you say for better or for worse, to death do us part. And I get the whole thing that's it's not even in the Bible to even say that. Like, that's something that we made up. However, it's like there's gonna be moments where things happen, and it don't necessarily mean infidelity. But if I have a husband who I know consistently cheats on me, 9 times out of 10, if I don't want to leave that marriage, I might cheat on that nigga too. The only difference is you might never find out that I cheated on you.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm going to take it to the grave. You know, but y'all get so stupid that we find out that y'all cheating. Like, don't put me in a predicament to now I have to either save face and leave you for my worth and my womanhood to stay intact, or I have to stay with you and feel like an idiot. Don't put me in that predicament. And I feel like when men cheat, they do that because they cheat. Like how y'all say we emotional cheaters. Mm-hmm. We don't cheat because yes, we do. But it's not to say that an emotional cheater means that you have an emotional connection with another man. I'm lacking emotion in this relationship because you don't make me feel emotionally safe here. Mm-hmm. So I can go out and have sex with Tim, and I done came up with like 6 niggas' names. I can go out and have sex with Tim and not have a connection with him just off the connection that I'm not having with you. You know what I mean? So why can't that be a conversation? Why can't we have this conversation and talk it out? Why is it the instance to run when you're a man and then it's deemed as knowing your worth? Whereas if we leave, I think that everyone around us, like mothers and family members, friends, some friends are saying, girl, how you gonna find you another man? Because it's like we need to be with a man to be whole or something. But it doesn't look that way on y'all end. Mm-hmm. How does someone handle triggers after being cheated on?
That's a good one because I personally struggled with that. It's really going to come down to the communication. In the past, when I was triggered, I communicated about it, but it was more of a condescending, emasculating response. And what I mean, here's an example. I'm not even dealing with that person anymore. You're letting this person live rent-free in your head. Why are you even thinking about that? Like,
that's gaslighting.
It is.
That's gaslighting.
And the worst part about it, if I were wrong and I'm tripping, but in this case, because the reason why I got triggered, I saw signs or things came up and I brought those up, and then I was gaslighted when this person really was still doing that.
Yeah.
That's the worst, when it's like my suspicion was actually true. I would have rather have these suspicions and then I've been wrong and be like, okay, dude, you was tripping.
No, your suspicions is tied to your intuition. It's definitely tied to your intuition. For me, I think that the advice that I would give is, like we've been saying this whole episode, is it worth salvaging? Is this relationship worth salvaging? And if it is, there has to be a strong why. What I learned is when you know a why to a situation, whether it's a business that you build in, why are you building this business? Whether it's parenthood, why do you want to be such an amazing parent? Like, once you know the reason why you want to do something and that why holds heavy weights, you can work through anything. And whenever you feel that trigger, remind yourself of that why. Why am I holding on to this relationship? Why do I want it to work in the first place? And if that why is strong enough, I would think that you can get through anything. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice
for that situation. Do you have any closing remarks?
You know, I always close with the Pure Intentions cards. PureIntentions314.com. Go and get these cards. It will help you with what you need to do to intentionally date. What about you?
Well, I would definitely want to close out with the fact that infidelity is a thing. It does happen. And I would say if you want to work through your partnership and try to make it work and try to forgive after infidelity, it doesn't make you naive. It doesn't make you anything that someone else might feel about you in that situation, but you do have to be patient with yourself. The cheater should be patient with their partner. And I do think therapy, I will always advocate for therapy, is a big thing. Know which therapist that you connect with, so that you can get the best for what you are there for. I will also say that take your time. Like my one advice that I would say, that when you have a partner that does cheat and it's a physical cheat, it's very hard to be intimate with that person later on. So if you don't want to be touched by that person, have that conversation with that person and let them know, like, I'm not ready for you to touch me. I'm not ready to be intimate with you, and take little baby steps. I think that the best thing would be is to introduce maybe holding hands back into the scenario, see how that feels to you. And then maybe if that's okay after a while, then you can kiss the person. And it might seem insane because you're so used to being with this person, but don't force yourself into healing. Don't force yourself into it. Take your time. And if your partner understands and acknowledges they're wrong in a situation, they would understand this as well. So that is my take on infidelity and trying to work through it for the best. And that is the Pure Intentions podcast on infidelity. We will see you guys next week.